Hello, my name is David Ehrman, and I live here in Springtown, Texas. And what the title of this is this YouTube today video today is Yahweh clothed with majesty. And if you will turn with me to Psalms 93, it is in the World English Bible, and Yahweh is the Hebraic name for God in the Old Testament, otherwise known as the Tanakh. Uh, and it's spelled YHWH. And in Hebrew letters is Yod Hey Vav Hey. And they don't have the vowels anciently because they ceased pronouncing it, but Yahweh is the best and most likely pronunciation we can find for God's name. And Psalms 93, and focusing on verse 1, it says, Yahweh reigns. He is clothed with majesty. Yahweh is armed with strength. The world also is established. It cannot be moved. Your throne is established from long ago. You are from everlasting. The floods have lifted up, Yahweh. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their waves. Above the voices of many waters, the mighty breakers of the sea, Yahweh reigns on high, is majesty. Your statutes stand firm. Holiness adorns your house, Yahweh, forevermore. And you see, Yahweh is clothed with majesty. We, and our human condition from the garden, we're clothed with shame. And if you will turn with me or scroll up or down to Genesis 2:25, maybe get the context in verse 21 on down. It says, Yahweh God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and as the man slept, he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. Yahweh God made a woman from the rib to which he had taken from the man and brought her to the man. I think it really should say more like a side, or a piece of him, maybe something more significant than the rib, like say 100 pounds would be, say uh, would be about right for you know uh, to create a woman, and the man said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She will be called woman because she was taken out of man. He say he had lost 100 pounds. He might have got kind of fat eating up all that fruit and all that, and gained some weight in that garden. And but here he comes. He wakes up and there's a woman, and 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 it says, the man said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Yes, I had previously um, quoted that. Uh, and so this is a prophetic statement, by the way. And continuing on, therefore a man will leave his father and his mother and will join with his wife, and they will be one flesh. The man and his wife were both naked, and they were not ashamed. It's strange that this translation ends the quote from because she was taken out of man. It ends it in verse 23, when I believe it should continue on in the first part of verse 24, where it says, therefore a man will leave his father and his mother and will join with his wife, and they will be one flesh. And that's what happened. I two particular examples I can think of is, well, the first example, it's not exactly someone we look up to, was the first man born, Cain. You know, he was banished, but he left with his wife. Where that wife came from, well, that's another story. You know, it's the common explanation is that Adam and Eve already had a daughter that just wasn't mentioned. Uh, but this is what they were clothed with. They were clothed with shame, and and in chapter 3, it goes on further. In verse 7, after they had eaten of the fruit, it says that there's the forbidden fruit from the tree. They had been told not to eat of it. Well, after that, it says in verse 7, their eyes were opened, and they both knew that they were naked. They sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. But hey, that wasn't sufficient to see. Yahweh was God was going to give them clothe them more in animal skins. It says Yahweh in verse 21, Yahweh God made them garments of animal skins for Adam and for his wife, and clothed them. Go in Daniel chapter 12. It talks about the resurrection. And how shall we appear? It depends on which resurrection you're in. Hey, you're going to be in the first resurrection or a later resurrection. There's a second resurrection and a resurrection. And then there's also the resurrection to condemnation, in which people will be raised in shame. But in Daniel 12, starting at the beginning of the chapter, at that time Michael will stand up, the great prince who stands for the children of your people. And that's referring to an archangel. And there will be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And that is the Great Tribulation. It is discussed in some detail in Mount Olivet prophecy in Matthew 24. And at that time, your people will be delivered. Everyone who is found written in the book, that is the book of life it's referring to. Many of those who sleep in the dust will awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now, sometimes, the word olam sometimes it refers to everlasting or eternal, and sometimes it's just it refers to an indefinite time, maybe a long time, and of course, everlasting life is eternal. Now, the punishment, it is to be temporal, as I will briefly show you. Those who are wise will shine as the brightness of the expanse. Those who turn many to righteousness will shine as the stars forever and ever. So here they are clothed with light. those who are righteous. Um, Go to Job chapter 8. And this would be answering what the question, what I told you about how about the punishment and its duration. It says in verse 20, Job verse 8 20, and chapter 8 and verse 22, those who hate you will be clothed with shame. So this is talking about the punishment. Those who are wicked are clothed with shame and nakedness. That those who are wicked will be resurrected in nakedness. The tent of the wicked will be no more. So here we have it. That they shall perish. Like there's that parable, and it was just given on this Sabbath in the sermon, somebody else's sermon, in which it talks about the unjust steward, who would not be released from torment until he paid the othermost farthing, the othermost piece of money, till his account was settled. But it was temporal, but it would be for a while. And we also determined in Daniel 12, around verse 3, that many will be led to righteousness by those who are shining light. So some of those people will be put to shame, and some will be given an opportunity of salvation after the second resurrection. Those who are not called in this age, those who have not received the gospel or such. I know a lot of people will try to deny it, but hey, it fits the narrative of the Bible, and it fits the nature of God. Instead of this idea that, oh yeah, well, created multiple billions of people over several thousand years, and maybe save a few 100,000 or a few million or however many, or even a billion. But the overwhelming majority will be tormented and forever and ever and ever. And that even the most wicked will be given a temporal punishment. Turn to Psalm 35 and verse 26. And said, let them be disappointed and confused together who rejoice at my calamity. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor who magnify themselves against me. And Psalm 109 and verse 29. It says, let my adversaries be clothed with dishonor. Let them cover themselves with their own shame as with a robe. Okay. So here we have it, that they would be clothed with shame. And I'm going to close with 1 Corinthians 15:42 through verse 49. And it says, So also is the resurrection of the dead. Previously, it talked about different glories of animals and celestial bodies, and then differing uh, from one another in glory. But here he goes, talks about the resurrection of the dead. The body is sown perishable, it is raised imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. We are in dishonor right now. And it is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. Where right now we are mortal. We get old and weaker. We are born weak. We become stronger as in our youth, but that. But then most of our adult life, is going downhill, and it is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body, and there is also a spiritual body. You know that there are people who insist that the resurrection will be bodily. That we are going to be resurrected in our bodies, and denies it here. I haven't gone. Not yet. I haven't gone through all the scriptures with everyone on this YouTube, and hopefully I need to get more people on this YouTube to be able to make it more worthwhile. And but there are people who teach that were resurrected as fleshly beings, just like we are now, and that's the majority of Christianity teaches that. It denies it right here. Uh, so it is also it is written: the first man Adam became a living soul. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. However, that which is spiritual isn't first, but that which is natural, then that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, made of dust. The second man is the Lord from heaven. As is the one of dust, such as are those who are also made of dust. And as is the heavenly, so such are they also that are heavenly. As we have borne the image of those made of dust, let us bear the image of the heavenly. So I mean, yes, like sometimes, you know, uh, Jesus would appear, materialize after he was resurrected, change into a more earthly form and sit down and eat and be touched by his disciples. But he was resurrected spiritually, and just like angels at times, like when they went into Sodom, they appeared spiritual. And those same two angels previously in Genesis had met with Abraham, and it also says with God, or it uses the word Yahweh. Uh, so, and they sat down and ate. So there were three who appeared to Abraham, Yahweh, and two angels. And it later says Yahweh left, and the two angels, they left too, but they went in a different direction. They went to Sodom to warn Lot of the impending judgment. Well, that will be all for today, and hope to see you later. Have a blessed week.